Attempting to violently dismantle a system of absolute control often leads to a single, inevitable result. The revolutionary simply becomes the new administrator. In 1995, Delhi was a city of analog noise. Millions moved through the streets, unaware of the digital scaffolding being quietly erected around them. Arjun Sen lived in the quiet center of this bustle, isolated by the recent, unexplained death of his father. It sent a signal to an autonomous system that the previous user was gone, and a new, active host had finally logged on. The terminal revealed Project Shunya, a decentralized doctrine of global influence that operates without a physical headquarters or a traditional chain of command. This map shows how the system maintains its grip. It synchronizes three distinct vectors: media, politics, and economics. By manipulating all three simultaneously, Shunya can manufacture a consensus that the public accepts as organic truth. His mother's silence was a form of protection. She knew that once you see the interlocking layers of this control, the illusion of independent choice disappears. It is a realization her husband couldn't carry, and one she feared would break her son. Shunya's true defense is that it rarely fights its enemies. Instead, it waits for them to grow angry enough to use the system's own levers to fix the world, corrupting their desire for justice into a thirst for control. As Arjun began mapping the nodes, the system responded. It didn't lock him out with firewalls. It sent a direct, psychological prompt to his screen. You are observed. Paranoia began to bleed into Arjun's reality. Everyday interactions felt scripted. A stranger checking their watch or a car idling at a curb suddenly looked like a coordinated movement within the network. The pressure shifted from psychological to physical in an abandoned metro tunnel. Faceless operatives cornered Arjun, forcing him into a kill or be killed scenario. Arjun picked up the weapon. He pulled the trigger. And standing over the body, he realized that for the first time in his life, his hands were not shaking. This wasn't just a fight for survival. By taking a life without hesitation, Arjun had completed an initiation rite, sacrificing his remaining innocence to gain deeper access to the terminal. His search led him to Mira, the network's last active node. She revealed that Arjun's father failed because he tried to stop individual conflicts, failing to see that the system simply used those pauses to regroup and start a new war elsewhere. Mira saw the change in Arjun. She warned him that his obsession with dismantling the architecture was erasing his identity, leaving him unable to distinguish necessary force from the tyranny he sought to destroy. Arjun ignored her, finally cornering the current void architect in a derelict industrial complex. The architect defended the existence of Shunya, claiming to be a caretaker of balance. He argued that society is too fragile for the raw truth, requiring a system that protects people by wrapping reality in necessary lies. Arjun expected a final struggle against a monster. Instead, he'd found an exhausted old man ready to step aside and let Arjun take his place at the center of the void. Arjun rejected the offer to rule alongside him. He maintained that his only goal was to break the machine that had used his father. With Mira watching, Arjun pulled the trigger. The architect fell, and the nightmare of the old regime seemingly ended in a single moment of violence. The immediate aftermath felt like a success. Morning news broadcasts reported on the dismantling of a global criminal network, suggesting that the threat had been neutralized by local authorities. In that moment, the mission appeared to be complete. His father was avenged, the mastermind was dead, and Arjun stood as the victor over a global conspiracy. But back at the terminal, Mira saw the truth. The network node tree briefly flickered red as the architect died, then immediately rebooted to a steady, active green. Arjun stood before the screen, his expression entirely devoid of the grief he had started with. The humanity that fueled his quest had been hollowed out. The system didn't care that the previous man was murdered. It simply registered a successful transition of power. The terminal blinked with a final confirmation. Admin access granted. Arjun didn't hesitate. He sat at the console and typed the command to initiate full system control. The Void Architect was never a person to be killed. It was a chair to be filled. By using the system's own violence to win, Arjun completed the cycle, becoming the very darkness his father died trying to destroy.